Veritas Files here. This is going to be a follow-up video to a video I did several months back entitled, I submit this for your consideration, what are you going to do? That video was obviously directed at the gold and silver communities. It was an attempt on my part, for those of us who think long-term and try to look out onto the horizon and anticipate future events for our own good and that of our families, to kind of broaden our perspective a little bit and kind of develop our conscience a little bit more. The video turned out to be more controversial than I expected it to be, which is why most people responded in PMs instead of comments in the comment section. There were a lot of people, unfortunately more than I had anticipated, that thought it was stupid to try to help others that you care about. Not sure that I'm actually going to take the time to address that in this video fully, but let me just say this. For those who were unable to identify in the video that I was talking about people that I genuinely care about, that I'm going to have extended contact with probably for the rest of my life, people that I would take a bullet for, people that I would sacrifice myself for, I thought I was pretty clear about that. Maybe I wasn't, but these are family members, mothers, fathers, brothers, nieces, nephews, close personal friends, maybe uncle or aunt, things like the people that I see on a regular basis. Virtually everybody in my family, even extended family, live in the exact same state. Almost all of them, in fact, all of them I can think of, live within about 4.5 hours of me. All of my immediate family, including my wife's immediate family, every single one of them live within a half hour of my home. I have only one extended family member, which is a single aunt and two cousins that live in the Pacific Northwest. That's the only family member that I know of that lives very far away from me, and I don't see her very often. The rest of them I see several times a year, and most of them I see weekly or monthly or sometimes daily, so I see them a lot. And I think I've said in other videos that I have identified 26 individuals, couples, or families that fit the criteria of people that I care enough about to try to help, okay? I think if we are virtuous, moral, prudent people, and we are indeed concerned about the future, and we do think long-term, and we do know that the vast majority of these people will need assistance in the future, that we should be taking this into account right now. These are the good old days. The collapse has not yet happened, and we have the ability to take that into account right now. That being said, what are you looking at in front of you? You are looking at one stack out of what will be 26 stacks that are made up of a silver eagle, a generic round, a peace dollar, a Morgan dollar, 2 Kennedy half dollars, 1 Walking Liberty, 1 Franklin, 8 silver quarters, 20 silver dimes, and a 10th ounce gold coin, either a Krugerrand Canadian maple or an American gold eagle. I think that's just under 8 ounces of silver and obviously 1/10 ounce of gold. Off the top of my head, with the silver price at $22.57 or whatever it is now, and the gold price, whatever it is, $13.89, something like that, I don't know what that really amounts to, but it's not very much. But I routinely buy something for other people. Now, I'm not even halfway through the 26 stacks that I have to make, and I've been doing this for 5 years. But given that I have very limited resources, it's going to take me a long time to do 26 stacks. And when I get done with the 26 stacks, unless I identify someone else, I'm going to start making 26 more stacks, right? I constantly add to my own stack. I don't ever not add to my own stack. If I had to sell something, I'd add to my own stack. There's never going to be a pay period or a month in which I do not add to my own stack. These stacks are secondary. If I can't add to my own stack, I don't add to theirs. And generally, when I add to theirs, it's something small, and it's a one-time deal, and then it's weeks or months before I'm able to do another one. Okay, which is why I only have several of these, and I don't even have 13 yet, let alone 26. So who knows if I'll even get these finished. My point is, I'm doing something proactively because I know that people will not have listened to me. People will have done what I've done numerous times throughout my life, which is to make a mistake, to be short-sighted. And they're going to need my assistance. And if my choice is starve my brother and feed my son, I will not do that. I would rather die myself than to do that. I will do everything in my power to help those that I care about, regardless of whether they have listened to me or not. Does that same thing go for the average stranger that walks up to my home? No, it does not. Will I try to help the average person that walks up to my home? I don't know. I may not. It will depend on the circumstance. In most cases, it's probably going to be a no, particularly if I'm in dire straits. And if I'm able to give assistance to the extent that I can, I'm going to try to do it anonymously. But, I mean, you should know, I also stack for my church. I go to my church. I give to my church. There will be a time, likely, when I will not be able to give to my church, except out of a stack that I have already begun for that purpose. And that may be the only wealth that's coming into that church at that time. I have no idea. But I have a stack for that church. And I add to that every now and then. Those things that are going to be necessary in the future, whether it be wealth for those who don't have any, food for those that don't have any, I try to take that into account. Am I going to be able to feed everybody I care about? Absolutely not. But I'm going to have made an effort to help them to the best of my ability before I am willing to turn anyone away. I'm going to have made the effort. I'm not simply going to say, look, this is mine, you didn't listen to me, go and die. It's not going to happen. I would sooner starve myself to death than to do that. In any case, guys, I'm not meaning really to preach at you. I'm just saying start to think about these issues. I don't really believe in most cases that we have thought about the kinds of things that are going to occur when wealth becomes hard to come by or becomes non-existent in the lives of many. I mean, Japan is not a completely impoverished country, but it's much different than it was in, say, the late 80s. In Japan, if you're an elderly person, there are people now in Japan that are having to keep wads of money, of yen, in their home just in case they have any kind of a medical issue. They have, because it does happen in that country that, you know, when an ambulance has to arrive, and I've read this 2 or 3 different times, that some ambulance drivers will drive you around until you agree to pay them off before they'll take you to the hospital. And there are some Japanese that are having to keep wads of cash around to have with them, not for any other reason than if they have a medical emergency, they have to be able to pay someone a sufficient price to get them to the doctor. In other words, they're being extorted for their wealth because what the Japanese are being paid is not keeping up with inflation. It's not keeping up with the cost of living. Energy prices in Japan in some cases are up several 100%. Depends on where you live. But in any case, guys, we need to start thinking about these things. We need to start understanding that it's going to be necessary in some cases for us to not save the day necessarily, but extend the hand of mercy to those we care about. Even if they've been stupid, even if they've been short-sighted, even if they've chosen to ignore good advice. For those of you who've never made a mistake, congratulations. You're the only one that exists on the planet. Anyway, again, this is not to preach at you. This is just to encourage you to begin thinking about these issues and deciding right now, what are you going to do when these hard choices come your way? Are you going to put a gun in their face? Are you going to turn them away with absolutely nothing? Or are you going to have at least made an attempt, because you have the opportunity right now today, to help them? Keep it in mind, guys. Thanks.